guys, it's Phil the MMA Dude back with the Split Decision Podcast, episode number 46, here with my always brilliant and beautiful co-host, both inside and out the Fight Geek. Fight Geek, how you doing tonight, man?
Doing excellent, Phil. Happy to be back talking fights with you.
Great. Well, we've got a lot to discuss today, folks. Despite there being no UFC cards for the next 3 weeks, we'll get through it together. First, we're going to kick off with a UFC Sao Paulo recap. After that, we're going to very quickly touch on Bare Knuckle FC9 and Jason Knight's amazing win over Artem Lobov in that. After that, we're going to touch very quickly on the upcoming Bellator card, and then my favorite section, listener questions and more. So let me start off the episode with this question for you, Fight Geek. We saw Jan Blachowicz last night defeat Jacare Souza via split decision in a 5-round main event that I thought was pretty forgettable. He called out John Jones afterwards. We just heard today that that Jones and Dominic Reyes look like they have verbally agreed to main event UFC 247. That is far from official. But where does Jan go from here, especially with Jones just seeming like that is not a realistic option?
Yeah, I think he's going to have to find a compelling fight and win it. I think he's still one fight away. I don't know if like an Alexander Rakic or someone like that, a dangerous guy who has a big rep could do it for him. But right now, I'm not sure who's out there. Maybe Anthony Smith. If he were to beat Anthony Smith soundly, perhaps he could be in line. But it looks like right now it's got to be, Reyes and then Corey Anderson for John Jones.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know that Anthony Smith has been calling out Corey Anderson quite aggressively since 244. And it sounds like a contract was sent to Corey because he's tweeting sign the contract this time. And there's been silence on that end. But I agree with you. I think Anthony Smith would be a great fight for Jan Blachowicz to get to that next step, get closer to the title shot. And then let me ask you this. What is next for Jacare?
Hard telling, he didn't look horrible, but he certainly had some issues. He obviously wasn't able to get the fight to the ground. I think ultimately that's what lost him the fight, is that he was getting to that clinch position and not being able to take him down, not even once. So Jan really kind of stalled out that plan. If we're going to have to watch Weidman continue, maybe a Weidman-Jacare rematch at 205 is something you could see.
Woof to that.
Other than that, I don't see what. Maybe Jacare versus Santos when he comes back. I know you think Santos is getting a title shot, but I doubt that. So, it's hard for me to, just pick a fight out of the blue for him.
Wait, so Santos, I'm just playing devil's advocate. So Santos gets a split decision loss to Jones, by far the closest John has come to losing.
I get where you're going
and
with this.
And you're going to give him Jacare.
Jacare is arguably, a fading legend. Do you think he wants to take a fight like that, or do you think a name fight would appeal to him more?
I just think that's kind of like taking Santos's mouth, opening it, and spitting into it.
Santos, who would you rather fight if you're Santos? Corey Anderson or Jacare? Jacare's name value is much better.
Well, it's not right, but Santos knows that beating him will do nothing. Nothing. It's just a waste of time, right? Because what does that mean? It's a
bigger name and it's arguably an easier matchup.
We disagree here. Wait, so you're saying that a win over Jacare for Santos is going to get him closer to the title than a win over Corey Anderson? No way.
In public perception, I think it may. I'm not nailing myself into that box, but
you shouldn't, because you won't get out.
A win over Jacare, I think on paper still is more impressive than a win over Corey Anderson on paper. I still believe that.
Okay, that's one of your more controversial takes. Okay, all right, fair enough.
Well, up until 2 weeks ago, you thought Corey Anderson was the worst fighter on the roster.
Oh, I did not. Not.
Sure you did.
I said he was one of the most boring.
Check the tape.
One of the most boring, absolutely.
But there's very few options for Jacare in a compelling matchup at 205 at this point for me.
Yeah, and last question about. I want to keep the questions general.
Actually, here's one. How about Jacare
Uh huh.
reintroducing Alexander Gustafsson, who was on a skid before he left?
Well, now that makes sense. We'll see if Gustafson returns.
There's been murmurs of him wanting a comeback. That'd be a great fight.
Yeah, yeah.
On paper, I don't know how the action would look.
I cannot get excited about anything Gustafson. I'll be honest. I mean, he hasn't been at his old level for many years, many.
Right.
So,
So tough
let me
one.
let me ask you this question. This is a bit of a controversial one. Then we're going to move on to the co-main, which I really want to get into, that split draw between Paul Craig and Shogun. But first, before I do that, I watched this card top to bottom, and I believe very seriously that UFC Sao Paulo was the worst UFC card in 2 years. Now, do you agree or disagree? If you disagree, tell me a card that was worse.
Well, off the top of my head, I can't really identify.
Worst card in 2 years at least.
Worst card. Yeah, I mean, it very well may be up there. It was not the most compelling card in the world, and we didn't get a ton of action. So, if that's the horse if that's the drum you're hitting, I'll go ahead and hit it with you. Sure.
Okay. And I'm not trying to be a downer, guys. I just think it was interesting, frankly, because I think the cards usually deliver. This one really seemed flat. But moving on to more positive subjects. More positive subjects like the split draw between Shogun and Paul Craig. I scored this 2-1 for Shogun. What did you score?
100% 2-1 for Shogun, and it's just baffling that the Brazilian judges saw it a draw when they had every right to judge that for the hometown guy. So bizarre. The whole storyline around that fight's bizarre because Shogun had every reason to get the nod there. Not sure why a draw. Bisping seemed to think that it was a good-looking fight for Craig. I mean, I think the first round was a very good round for Craig. He seemed to really take his foot off the gas pedal. I don't know if that was a cardio issue or what, but seemed to let Shogun off the hook, and definitely thought Shogun won the second and third.
Yeah, what a strange fight, and like you said, what a stranger decision. It sounds like
Quick question:
Yeah.
Is there ever been a fading legend with a better chin than Shogun?
No, there hasn't, and that's, by the way, we got into a little argument a few weeks ago. You know that I chose Shogun last episode, and you were really dismissive of that. And look, he basically won. I mean, I know he didn't, but he almost did. Shogun's good.
For sure. Shogun, 100%. He definitely knows what he's doing in there. But that's why I say I feel like Paul Craig let him off the hook a little, especially in the first round when he landed 20 unanswered headshots, and Shogun was really staggered.
Absolutely.
I feel like most fighters in the division would have been able to capitalize in a way Paul Craig was not able to, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I think that's very fair, and I would normally say, okay, what would you like to see next for both fighters? But it sounds like they've both agreed to a immediate rematch. Does that sound good to you?
I guess since it was a split draw, why not? Let's get some conclusion there.
Okay, all right, we ready to move on?
Yep.
Okay, Charles Oliveira, lightweight,
The
Bronx defeating Jared Flash Gordon via KO punches, 1 minute and 26 seconds in the first round. And I'll be honest, Fight Geek, as you know, I'm biased with Jared. Jared is a friend of mine. I was really pulling for him. I picked him to win, and it just didn't go well.
It did not go well. I mean, Charles Oliveira, I put a poll up the night of the fight after the performance asking if people thought that he was the most underrated fighter on the roster. Now, I know you could pick a handful of names. I think his definitely has to be in there. He's the all-time submission winner, wins leader. I think he's second all-time in finishes over names like Vitor Belfort. He's only 30 years old. He fights in the toughest division in the sport. I know he hasn't had a lot of top-flight names, but I think Oliveira's hitting his prime and arguably the most underrated fighter on the roster, in my opinion.
Yeah, it really is. I think that, normally that kind of stuff, that hyperbolic stuff, I usually am quick to try to jump at you for and say no way, but he really does not get talked about, like, at all. And that's strange.
At all. And he's lost a couple fights. I think he lost to Pettis and he lost to Barbosa, Felder. I believe. I could be wrong about the Barbosa fight. But, the guy came into the game super young as a jiu-jitsu practitioner. He's very athletic, and his striking has come a long way. So I think he's going to cause he can cause problems in the toughest division in the sport, in my opinion. So be super interested to see what's next for him.
Yeah, it looks like he did not lose to Barboza, by the way, but you were Felder, Lamas, Anthony Pettis, Max Holloway, Frankie Edgar, Cub Swanson, Donald Cerrone.
Good names, and he was also a very young fighter. So, like I said, just 30 now, hitting his prime. Horrible matchup for Flash Gordon. So, you got anybody next for Oliveira you want to see?
So, when I was watching his fight, I was at a loud early Friendsgiving party, and I know that he called out McGregor. Who was the second person? Was it Paul Felder?
I believe so, but I don't know about that fight.
I don't either.
I'd rather see like a Kevin Lee versus a DeBronx fight.
Ooh.
He has the striking to match up with Kevin Lee, and he's an amazing jiu-jitsu fighter to nullify that wrestling. I think there is a lot of intrigue between those two.
Yeah, I like that. I was assuming that Lee and Islam Makhachev were headed for a showdown, but I don't dislike that idea. What about this idea? Charles Oliveira versus Gregor Gillespie.
That's a good fight. Definitely a good fight.
I know that
Charles Oliveira's on a 6-fight winning streak, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
That sounds right. Let me see.
So I don't think he'd want to fight a guy who just got highlight reel knocked out, especially when he's on this kind of move. He's ranked 13th, and I'm sure he's going to try and get someone above him.
Yeah, absolutely. Gregor's 12 as of right now. Granted, this hasn't been updated. But
right, so tomorrow I'm sure that Oliveira will be ahead of him, or whenever they update the rankings.
Yeah, and I'm starting to hear rumors that I believe are credible. Again, I could be wrong, that Paul Felder and Dan Hooker are getting booked. That's
a nice fight.
It is. It seems like there's just some limited options for Charles Oliveira, frankly.
And he's not going to get a fight with a top 5 guy, so there's very limited options.
Exactly.
You said, has he fought Barbosa yet?
I was really scared you were going to ask me because
Seems like 2 guys that have fought. Off the top of my head, I can't remember.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
I think there's a lot of intrigue in that fight as well. Barbosa versus Oliveira.
Yep, I do not think they have fought. In fact, I'm sure they have not. So I like that. I actually really like that. Make that. That seems to make the most sense, actually. So okay, great. Are we ready to move along?
Yeah, let's keep it moving.
All right, so guys, I'm not going to cover everything, and you can stop me, Fight Geek, if you really want to talk about some of these. But yeah, again, I really was not blown away with this card, so we're going to move through it fast. James Krause defeating Sergio Moraes via third-round knockout at 4 minutes and 19 seconds of the third round. What'd you think of that fight?
It was a good performance by Krause. I think he started a little slow with his jab, but once he figured out that Moraes was really kind of not able to get to him, he just started landing. Moraes' cardio went out the door, and then you obviously saw him close the show. So probably the best performance we've seen versus the highest profile opponent. So big win for James Krause. Not quite sure what it does for him within the division, but it is a good performance for him.
So in terms of what's next for James Krause, the James Krause, as you taught me last week, what do you think of the winner of Jeff Neal versus Mike Perry?
I think that's a solid matchup for James Krause. I still think James Vick is a nice kind of matchup for James Krause. James Krause doesn't possess a ton of knockout power. James Vick is probably going to want to get back in there with someone who doesn't possess a ton of knockout power. So I think that could be more of a strategic fight with a name. I think James Vick still, although he's had some mixed results, still carries a little bit of weight with his name. So that would be a good fight for James Krause.
Oh, you keep mentioning Vick's name, and it's not that I'm forgetting about him. I'll be honest, I don't even like the guy, and I feel terrible for him. Well,
don't you agree with my thought process that a fighter like James Krause is probably the best type of matchup for him to come back against, not a Jeff Neal or Mike Perry type fight?
I think Krause would 100% win that fight.
How about Kraus versus Carlos Condit when he comes back?
I like that fight. And
How about Kraus versus Mickey Gall, perhaps?
Okay, I like it less. Gall does. I don't like Gall, but he also doesn't deserve it. What about Vicente Luque versus Kraus?
I mean, that's a good one. I think Luque would be heavily favored in that one, personally.
Well, of course, but Kraus wants his shot, right? But yeah, you're right.
For sure.
Okay, all right. Moving down the card here again. Stop me at any time. Ramos had a rear naked choke submission victory in the first round against Garagori. Francisco Trinaldo defeated Bobby Green, unanimous decision. Oh, rude boy Randy Brown. I picked Randy Brown, I believe, last episode. You did not pick him.
Yes, I did. I picked Randy Brown as well.
You did? I really thought you chose Worley Alves. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I mentioned that we had all been waiting on Warley's potential, but I think you saw exactly what happens to.
Okay, my apologies there.
The traps he falls into. So yeah, I picked Randy Brown. So it was a very good performance for him. He got the stoppage submission, correct?
Yes, it was a triangle choke submission, and it was 1 minute and 22 seconds into round number 2. I'm so disappointed that we both agreed there because as you know, I love to be very biased and just pick on you and what you got wrong, and then make sure that whatever I got wrong.
When you go 10-1-1 on your picks, Phil, it's going to be hard for you to pick on me.
Here we go. He went 10-1-1, guys.
Marcus Perez is the only reason I didn't have a clean sweep, and it looked good early, but Wellington Turman actually looked really strong, kept marching forward.
Yep, absolutely.
What did you think of the bottom of the card? Tracy Cortez, were you impressed with her performance?
I was. I know that I understand that it wasn't a knockout, that she didn't get the finish, but I thought she showed a lot of grit. I thought she showed a lot of strong top control. When Melo was really trying to turn the tide in the third round specifically. I thought she showed a lot of toughness, and I look forward to seeing more of her. I think that she's very good.
Yeah, for sure. I think she showed a little bit of her fighting spirit, which is always good. It can get a little gimmicky whenever, they're good looking and everybody's, building them up. But it's good to see her get in there and mix it up and be gritty and show that she is a fighter. Same thing with
Ariana Lipski.
Lipski, yeah. She came in, needed a win badly, was throwing heat early, and then did what she needed to solidify that win. So, big fan of both of those.
Totally agree. Really quickly on Lipski's win. So she comes out, and it's this amazing brawl for 15 seconds. She gets the knockdown of Isabella de Padua. Shoot, I'm sure I said that wrong. Gets the knockdown, then gets pulled into the half guard, and that's like the most exciting part of the fight by far. And then she doesn't even get close to a finish. Like, what?
Yeah, you never know. Maybe she was feeling the cardio, and she just felt most comfortable there. But yeah, it was... puzzling to say the least because she was landing heavy early. Yeah,
but I was very happy to see Lipski and Cortez both get wins. They look like very promising young prospects. And, okay, so with that being said, are we ready to move on?
Yeah, let's very briefly touch on the Bellator fights that I did not watch because I knew the results of, 24 hours prior. How about you?
I also, it's impossible, guys, it's impossible for me to watch these cards when they've happened hours and hours before. It's just impossible, right? I mean,
sports must be in real time or they hold no value.
Yeah, and I don't want to, I mean, we've obviously talked about this many times.
So we'll just go over them real quick. Linton Vassell, I'm sure you heard, upset Sergey Karatanov. Yep. It was a pretty surprising submission.
We got it wrong.
So big win for Linton Vassell. Austin Vanderford did what we expected him to do. 9-0, big win in Bellator. They continue to build him. Sidney Outlaw beat Roger Huerta via decision.
I feel like now that we both admitted that we haven't seen the card, we should really get it moving. I mean, we just admitted we haven't seen it.
Well, I saw the highlights.
Okay, fine.
Keep it moving. Anyways, let's keep it moving.
Okay. BKFC 9, the main event. You didn't want to talk about it. No, I'm making that up, guys, but I'm guessing you didn't. Bare Knuckle FC 9. Artem Lobov versus Jason Knight 2. I saw that. And I was heartbroken because it was actually another great fight, by the way. And Jason Knight got that fifth round knockout and broke Artem. And it was an incredible performance. And now all I can say is make the third fight.
Yeah, I think you have to say that. I mean, tough, gritty fight. I mean, both of those guys are so tough and gritty. And for Artem to kind of wince over and just kind of, like you said, break was a big surprise to me because Artem is tough as nails.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of, an unexpected ending, even though I feel like, Knight was doing a good job. It was unexpected ending. So there was some drama there. Definitely think the trilogy's got to be made.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to talk about Bare Knuckle FC as in general as a promotion a little bit more. But I think we have a listener question that touches on that, so we're going to save it for a little bit later. Okay, so moving on. Are we ready for my favorite segment already?
Unless you wanted to do, you got any thoughts on Michael Venom Page this weekend?
So I don't have any thoughts on Michael Venom Page. I look forward to when he returns and fights real opponents instead of pure cans, but I don't see that happening anytime soon, and I have no thoughts on him and his next fight.
Fair enough.
Do you?
All right. No, that's basically how I feel. I mean, I know he's fighting this weekend against another guy who has no name. Not sure what we're doing with MVP at this point, but I still think he's worth a shout-out.
Okay, all right. While we're having fun, right before we jump into my favorite segment, listener questions, I have to ask you this. We have now heard a lot of rumors about UFC 247 coming together with a Jones-Reyes title fight. I'm hearing a lot about UFC 248, most likely being the Khabib-Tony card. That could be 249, but more likely 248. Things are starting to form together for early next year, but UFC 246, which just a few weeks ago sounded like it was on the 1-yard line with McGregor-Cowboy, has gone eerily silent. What are your thoughts? Because I have a few thoughts, but what are yours?
Well, I think I was pretty clear about my McGregor thoughts. I think it was 3 or 4 episodes ago where I said I'm not going to believe that guy's going to fight again until he's in the cage fighting again. I think there's still a lot to be determined on Conor's end. So yeah, I was never sold on the idea of Conor headlining 247.
46.
46, excuse me. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So now what my theory is, and again, this is baseless speculation, but my guess is that this was on the 1-yard line between Cowboy and McGregor. I know that contracts were sent out. I know that for a fact. And suddenly, it was on the 1-yard line. It was about to happen. Then it went silent. And we both know there was a large social media backlash to the rumor of the fight. I happen to be one of those people, but many others felt the same way. And I was saying fight Gaethje. I'm guessing that McGregor was taken by surprise with this backlash. I don't think he saw that coming. And I think he certainly is a very proud guy. He doesn't want to look like he's ducking anyone, that's for sure. And I think he's not scared of anyone, right? He's McGregor. And I think that could be the delay. Is McGregor now maybe trying to fight Gaethje? This is pure speculation, of which I have no evidence.
Yeah, I have a hard time.
You don't think that's possible?
Yeah, I have a hard time believing that Conor's yearning for Gaethje at this point. I think Conor was waiting to see what played out between Jorge and Nate. Nate didn't win, so a very favorable opportunity for him went out the window. The trilogy versus Nate for the BMF belt probably would have been ideal for Conor.
So you're telling me that he wouldn't care at all, even if he's about to fight Cowboy and then he gets extremely strong backlash on social media?
I mean, I'm sure he's been getting extremely strong backlash on social media for quite some time now.
I understand.
I don't think that Conor is really making his career and strategic decisions based on the Twitter community's outcry. I think that, he is doing what he feels is best for him and based on what he's allowed to do or is able to do right now. So I don't think.
Okay.
Until we see a fight booked, Conor McGregor may never fight again, in my opinion. Still kind of feel that way.
All right, we're going to see how it's going to be very interesting to see what happens, but I want to go on record right now saying I believe Conor does care when it comes to his fight selection, if he is looking like he is ducking someone more worthy, I think he cares, especially if the fans are letting him know.
Wasn't he just lobbying for Frankie Edgar for a short time ago?
I think hey, good point. Very good point. But we'll see. It's going to be fascinating. Okay, guys, we're going to take absolutely. We're going to take a really quick break. We're going to be back with listener questions and more. Hey guys, it's Phil the MMA Dude letting you know that this episode of the Split Decision Podcast is brought to you by TotalAggressionClothing.com. Visit www.TotalAggressionClothing.com and use the promo code 46210 to receive a special Split Podcast discount on all Total Aggression hats, shirts, hoodies, and more. Again, that's www.TotalAggressionClothing.com with promo code 46210. Hey guys, this is Phil the MMA Dude, back with the Split Decision Podcast, episode number 46, here with my always brilliant co-host, the Fight Geek, and it is now time for my favorite section. It is now time for Listener Questions! Ooh, I don't know, dude. My voice broke a little bit there. That was
like an 8 out of 10, but we'll take it.
Oh, I'll take that 8. I would have given myself a worse score. Okay.
All right. I got one queued up from Instagram, from Jim Asoon, show regular Jim Asoon.
Jim Asoon, what up? Guys, if you ain't following Jim Asoon, are you even on Twitter or Instagram? Apparently, because now he's on Instagram. Just follow him, okay?
Here he says, and this was spectacular, he says, what did y'all think of Ross Pearson's Rolling Thunder KO that he suffered this past weekend? Did you see this?
Yeah, I did. Thought it was brutal.
It was, take out who it happened to. Was it unbelievably amazing?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, have you ever seen a Rolling Thunder kick land with any amount of force like that?
No. Oh, no. I must confess, I'd never seen anything like that.
Yeah, so sucks that it happened to Ross Pearson, who's kind of, a fan favorite from his days on The Ultimate Fighter and in the Ultimate Fighting Championship. So sucks to see it happen to Ross, especially a guy who suffered quite a few knockdowns and TKOs at this point. So that really sucked. But skill-wise, it was absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts for, what may be next for Ross?
I mean, I would hope that at this point, that he would think about hanging it up. You want to see the older guys who have 15-plus losses, when they're suffering KO losses with those many losses, I would like to see that. But you never know where people are financially in their careers and whatnot, so.
Yep, absolutely agree. Okay, do you have another or?
Yeah, I have one more.
Okay.
From Instagram, from DJ Double Drop.
Double Drop, what up?
He says, did Shogun win that fight? Bullshit, draw, decision. What do you think? I think we touched on it, but yeah, I think we both agree that Shogun should have won that fight. 29-28. Won the second and third round, even though it was a little lackluster. Definitely think he won.
Absolutely. Regardless, unfortunately he didn't. It sounds like they're going to run it back, and I guess I'm okay with it, right?
Okay, real quick, I'm going to interrupt. And who would you favor in the rematch?
Oh, great question. I would favor Shogun again. I really would. I have no reason not to. Why would I not? Because of age? I mean, he's defied that time and time again. I would favor Shogun.
Absolutely. Okay, I got one that actually came out a couple days ago. It was Paulo Kelly when Cage Warriors announced that Paddy Pimblett will be fighting Joe Giannetti.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
He wanted to know if we would break that down. So I love this fight. When I saw this break, I thought it was a very fun fight. Fan of both guys. I'll let you go first. You got a breakdown on this one?
I do, but I'm going to start it with a very fast story about me and Paddy Pimblett. So one time, when I think this was after one of Pimblett's last few losses that was highly, it was a big fight. I was hyped for it. Wasn't impressed with Pimblett, and I will admit it, like a little bitch, I tweeted at him about it, which is not cool, right, guys? I'm admitting it.
Yeah.
It's not cool. It's not cool, and I did it anyway. He responded with one of the best insults ever. And I went from not liking him to immediately being like, you know what? I've completely changed my mind. This guy's amazing. He called me a fucking helmet. And I didn't get it for like 2 days. And then I thought, wait, it's like a helmet, like there's no brain in it, right? Isn't that what the joke is?
I'm not sure, but I do love Paddy Pimblett. I think he's hilarious.
I thought that was hilarious, calling me a helmet. I don't know. There's something. Okay, that story sounded better in my head.
Neither here nor there.
Okay,
you may be a helmet, right?
I think I definitely may be a helmet. So he was onto something there. But anyways, I love Jojo Giannetti, Skeletor, and I love Paddy Pimblett now. So I think it's going to be a very fun fight. And I do think that Paddy the Baddy is going to edge Jojo, but I think it's going to be a really tight contest. And I don't even know if it's going to be a ground fight or a striking exchange because they're both very unique.
Yes, they are both very unique. They both are very good grapplers, and both of them, I think Joe may be the better striker from what I've seen.
That's fair.
Paddy has had a tendency to fade late in fights. So I think you're going to see this fight on the feet. I think you're going to see some scrambles. I think it's going to be a fun fight. Both guys need a big win. Paddy's last fight, I believe he lost to Soren Bach, who's going to be headlining Bellator this weekend.
Mm-hmm. That was absolutely, that's the Viking guy, right?
Yeah, the true Viking.
That was the fight where I tweeted that lame comment. Sorry, I know, I don't usually do that. Ugh.
So, that was a lackluster performance by Paddy, but he's still a young guy.
Yep.
I think the best is ahead of both of these guys, so it's always fun to see those type of fighters get a big spotlight. Hopefully we see the best out of them. Probably lean in Paddy at this point.
I would agree with you. Again, I think it's going to be a close one. Paddy Pimblett. I've got Paddy the Baddy. And Paddy, if you hear this, because I know you listen every episode, please know that I chose you, and maybe I'm not a helmet, but maybe I am. Who knows? Okay. All
right.
Moving on. Okay. This is from Ali Raw. That's at Leg Sweep MMA. And he says, where does Francis Ngannou go from here? He should be getting the title shot, but with the DC trilogy on the horizon, Stipe's eye recovery, and talks of Stipe boxing Fury, it just doesn't look like he's getting it, like he will get a shot at the title anytime soon. So, what do you guys think is the next right move? Hashtag AskSplitPod. Thank you, Ali, for using the hashtag. Go ahead, Fight Geek.
I think it's got to be Volkov, right?
I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not like in love with it, but Volkov is the guy, or perhaps line him up with the winner of JDS versus
Blades.
Yeah, line him up with the winner versus JDS, or if it's JDS, line him up with JDS. I don't think you can put him in there with Blades a third time. Yeah. So Volkov or JDS, if he wins, is really the only two options, because I don't think he's getting that title shot anytime soon. I don't know if you saw Stipe on Ariel's show, but he kind of laughed at the notion of fighting Francis again anytime soon.
Oh, he laughed at the notion of defending his belt of any kind at any time soon. He seemed to find it hilarious that he would be defending the belt in the next 8 months. He's talking about going to box Tyson Fury like he's some kind of draw. So I don't know what was going on.
Yeah, I don't know either. So those are my two answers for now. What do you think?
Well, and I just want to really quickly say, because I know a lot of hardcore Stipe fans listen to the show, guys, I was one of you. I loved Stipe. I'm just so disappointed. What is this? Why are you calling out Tyson Fury? Stick to your sport, that's all. I really don't think I'm asking too much here, am I? Am I? Fight Geek? Am I asking too much?
I don't think so.
Okay, so we'll see what happens there with the Tyson Fury circus. But hopefully...
Yeah, there's not a lot of intrigue for me to see Stipe box Tyson Fury or Tyson Fury fight Stipe in MMA. Honestly, I'm not overly interested in either of those.
Well, Stipe was getting outboxed by DC for much of that fight. How's he going to outbox a real boxer?
Exactly my lack of intrigue.
Yep, okay. So,
all right, you got one queued up? I got one from Fighting With Myself podcast. What's up, Juice?
Juicy Juice, baby. What up?
He says, since the rematch with Felder makes no sense at all, people should stop calling for it. What's next for Charles Oliveira? Also, I'll reciprocate Phil's question on my show. What do you two plan to do during the UFC hiatus? I think we talked about the Charles Oliveira matchups earlier. I like Kevin Lee or Barbosa personally. And then over the hiatus, we're going to come to you guys each week, talk about whatever news may be breaking, and the holidays, pretty much.
Yep, exactly. That was a great response. A lot better than what I had planned. We're good. Yeah. First and foremost, guys, we're not going anywhere. We're going to be here with you every week of this hiatus. We're going to get through it together. Second of all, without getting too personal, I think you all know that I took a new job a few months ago, and frankly, the break couldn't have come at a more stressful work time for me. So I really wanted to lean on those cards for emotional support. I will not have them. So please reach out, DM me with dumb stuff, guys. I'm going to need some kind of distraction because it's going to be rough.
Okay, here we go. Keep it moving. Glitch asks.
Glitch, what up?
He says, if you could only watch a single fight for the rest of your life, what fight would it be? Go ahead.
That's easy. I mean, I've said this before. Rory McDonald versus Robbie Lawler, too.
Nick Diaz versus Gomi.
Okay. All right. Hey, I can't argue with that.
On loop.
No. Okay. This one is from Jalen Ware. That's at strive2be_great. Why is Jones getting called out by so many fighters that know they can't beat him? Hashtag AskSplitPod. Jalen,
well, these fighters...
Who are you talking about, first of all? He's talking about Jan?
He's talking about Jan, Corey, and Dominic Reyes, who I think he's alluding to. But I would go out on a limb and say that all of those men are fairly confident in their abilities to beat Jan until they are unable to beat him. So, I don't think it's strange that he's being called out.
I mean, what did you guys expect him to say? Well, I know I have no chance, but if I could just collect the money.
The pinnacle of their division and their sport is to fight Jon Jones, so they're obviously going to be clamoring for that if their projection is going that way. I think Jon has looked more vulnerable than ever. I think Jon's interest level is questionable, so maybe, the getting is good right now to beat Jon Jones. Whoever does beat Jon Jones is going to have an enormous feather in their cap. That's a big legacy move right there to be the first man to beat Jones clearly. So there's plenty to call out Jones for at this point.
Yeah, I totally agree. Jones hasn't looked the same in his last two fights at all. It's almost like something's changed, but who knows? I don't know what that could be. But
do you agree with me? Historically, it doesn't matter how he's looked recently. He's still winning. Whoever is the man to dethrone Jon Jones.
Yes.
In the cage, it will do wonders for their career, obviously.
100%. And let me just quickly go on a very brief little tangent here, and you can tell me what you think. I think that a lot of Jones fans are justifiably getting a little annoyed. They're just getting frustrated because there's not a lot of good matchups left at 205. Is that fair? Fikey?
Yes, that's absolutely fair.
Okay, great. So I think that what's going on here is that the Jones fans, would by accident, without thinking or whatever, because they're loyal to Jon. I understand being a loyal fan. They're taking it out on the contenders who they're not getting excited by. Guys, this is on Johnny Boy. He's been talking about moving up to heavyweight for 2.5 years. If he wants to continue to have these big fights, he needs to move up, and he's not doing it. So that's where we're at.
Yeah, you think Stipe wouldn't fight him in a minute?
30 seconds. Less.
Yeah,
he'd sign
if they ever sent Stipe a contract with Jon Jones' name on it, he'd sign it immediately.
Right.
So, all right, I got one here from Kev. He asks, if the UFC books Yair versus Zabit, will they make it a 3-round fight on a pay-per-view card so Zabit can be protected yet again? Or will they make it a 5-round fight? Main event. Thank you for keeping up the awesome work. Well, thank you for the question, Kev.
That's an awesome question.
I think to make that a true #1 contender matchup, we need to see both of those guys in a 5-rounder. Prepare for a 5-rounder because the title's for 5 rounds. So I would love to see that fight for a 5-round #1 contender match.
I totally agree. I know that I was sort of fighting against that the last few weeks, saying that I was being dismissive of the Korean Zombie Ortega winner. I've given it more thought. I do think that Zabit versus Yair does make sense, but obviously would have to be a 5-rounder. You definitely could not give Zabit a title shot off of another 3-round performance on a pay-per-view. It'd be hilarious if they did that, to be honest. I would get a kick out of it. It would be so blatant that they're trying to hide his cardio issues if they actually went forward with that. But yeah, I don't think that'll happen.
Yeah, me neither. I think it's clear that either of those guys fighting for the title would be a big matchup for whoever's still holding the belt at that point.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I've got a question here from Jacob Powers. That's at Jacob Powers 2, and he says, where does Shogun go from here? Also, have you heard anything about a release for EA Sports UFC 4? So let me, if I may, take the second question first here.
Sure.
Yeah. EA Sports UFC 4. So Jacob, here's the story really quick on the EA UFC games. EA UFC 2 was a masterpiece. I loved it so much. I was very good at it, and it brought so much joy to me for so many hours. EA UFC 3 came out, and I think I played it a few days ago. I still haven't stopped, and I think my seasonal record is like 2-34. I've taken pictures of my record before and put it on Twitter. I'll do it again. But I must be the worst fighter in all of EA UFC 3. And if 4 is anything like 3, I'm not buying it.
Okay.
I'm very upset. I'm very upset.
Well, where does Shogun go from here? I think we've already mentioned. I think he's going to rematch versus Paul Craig. So I think that's the fight to make there.
Yep, I have to agree. That is the one that makes the most sense. Now we've got another question from Ali Ra. Ali, bringing the heat. I love it, Ali. I love it. This is a great one. He says, name 3 prospects that you're keeping an eye on and you believe will maybe challenge for the title someday. Chito Vera, Cyril Gagne. Is it Gagne?
Cyril Gain.
I don't know. That's not how Ariel said it on the show, so I'm not sure.
I don't know if Ariel's the...
All right. And Jack Shore, those are his 3 prospects that he wants to keep an eye on. He says the rule is that they cannot already be in the top 10. I like that rule. Go ahead.
Obviously, I'm the biggest Macy Barber fan there is. I think Macy Barber's a clear-cut number 1 prospect in that way.
Thanks for stealing one of mine. And by the way, I think she might...
Well, I mean, she's clearly one of them, right?
Yeah, let me see where she's ranked, though. She's number 10. Oh, you broke his rule. Rule breaker, okay. Rule breaker.
So hard to identify them off the top of my head. Let's say, let's hear yours. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, no problem. No, well, I was going to choose Macy, so I'm pretending like I knew the rules, but I was about to fall into that trap. I'm going to go, you know what? I'm going to go with Tracy Cortez. I know that she didn't get a knockout or a flashy win, but she looked dang good, and most of all, she really seemed to show a lot of grit and heart, which we mentioned. Those are keys, especially early in a career. So I'm going with Tracy Cortez. That's one.
Fine.
Yeah.
I'm going with Rosenstrike. I think if he can land a big...
I just gave him the look because he took my other one. You've got to be kidding me.
Yeah, Rosenstrike. I think he's a scary guy who hits super hard. If he finds a way to beat, Arlovsky and then Overeem, I think he will become a player in that division immediately.
Wow, bro. You took 2 out of 3 of mine on live recording. Okay. Thanks, bro. All right, this is going to be fun now. Well, I'll have to go with, oh, man. Gosh. You know what? This is going to be a risky one. Because she's coming off a loss. I'm going to go with Macy Chiasson. I think she's going to be back and she's going to be better and she's going to get through it.
That's a very good one. I like that pick. So let's see if we can come up with one more.
Wait, didn't I choose 3? Oh no.
Well, we have 2 of the same.
Okay. Let's keep. Yep. Go.
Hard to say.
Islam Makhachev.
Islam Makhachev, I'm very high on. Where is?
I'm going to say Islam Makhachev. That's my 3rd. So I answered the question. It seems like you're
fine.
not.
No, does Charles Oliveira count? No. He's been around forever.
Yeah, we'll make him count. Well, no, he does count. He's ranked 13. Yeah, he counts.
Yeah, but he's got 16 wins or whatever in the UFC. He's hardly a prospect.
Yeah.
I guess I'm still going to throw out there the Sadiq Youssef. I mean, I'm still very high on Sadiq Youssef. I think he's got everything he needs. He's not in the top 10 yet. Tough division. Super athletic. So Sadiq Youssef, Macy Barber, and Rosenstrike would be mine.
All right. And I said mine. I like those. Okay, all right. Moving on. Moving right along. This is from...
I got one from... sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, this is from Hectic One. That's at Hectic _1. Guys, Hectic One is an amazing follow. He's been a very loyal listener. I don't give him enough of a shout out. The dude's just great. He's a great account. So make sure you're following Hectic One if you're not. Here's his question. Blachowicz keeps calling for a title shot even though Reyes seems to be the front runner. After last night's performance, if you were the UFC, what would Jan have to do for you to book that fight with Jones? #AskSplitPod. And I know we touched on this, but take it away, Fight Geek.
Finish Anthony Smith.
100% agree. Finish Anthony Smith, or, by the way, let's just say that Anthony Smith is not available for whatever reason. What about, I would also say, or finish Thiago Santos. Is that fair?
Yeah, one of the two, for sure.
Yep. Okay,
I got one from Smokey J, MMA.
Smokey J, we've missed you. I love Smokey J and his ugly drawings. It's a great thing, guys. Follow Smokey J if you ain't.
Okay, he says, what are your thoughts on the BKFC signing the Iranian Hulk to fight bare knuckle? Go ahead.
Yeah, three words. Not gonna happen.
Not going to happen? What? He's not going to win a fight, or he's never going to make it to the ring?
I think he's not going to make it to the ring. I really don't. I think that it was a PR stunt. And this is actually this was the question I was talking about, where we can talk a little bit about BKFC. You know, I think they have a very clear problem, and this is why they're hiring these, I don't want to be mean, but freaks to get headlines. And I think that's fair. I mean, this guy...
that would certainly classify as a freak show fight, but... when you're a niche, fringe-type organization, you don't think that that's an interesting signing for them? If that guy versus Bob Sapp, you wouldn't tune in for as the co-main?
I absolutely would. Here's what I think BKFC, I think they have two major problems, and I'm going to keep this quick, but I want to hear your thoughts on them, Fight Geek. I think first and foremost, when I was watching BKFC 9 yesterday, it really occurred to me that I don't find the sport itself particularly interesting or visually pleasing.
It's not overly exciting, and again, it's very blunt force brutality. So you know.
Well, you make it sound good when you say that. When you say blunt force brutality.
Well, what I'm saying is, not many casual fans are going to tune in. For instance, I was watching the UFC. My wife is sitting on the couch. I turn it to bare knuckle fighting, and she's like, ugh, what is this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To the untrained eye, it's much more belligerent looking. Let's just put it that way.
Oh, yeah. 1,000%.
So I think they're always going to have a hard time really breaking through to a mainstream audience. So these freak show type fights is really going to be their power alley.
Yep. I have to agree. And that brings me to the second really big issue here is because they haven't set up a belt situation, and I know why they did that. It's because I think it was BKFC 3, they gave the belt to a female fighter who I cannot recall, but I know that she's no longer
Beth Rawlings?
Thank you. And I know that she's no longer with them. And then so I think they're probably very hesitant to give belts out when people are leaving, right? So I get that.
Yeah, especially if they're probably signing fighters per event and not like on long-term contracts, so they don't have as much long-term control of them. I think that bare knuckle FC is like a sport you like check it out, and then leave. I don't know how many of these people will see with like long-lasting BKFC careers. Although like a Chase Sherman, someone like that seems like a very natural fit there. Much more natural than he ever did in UFC, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. I was just going to say their final mistake here is, in my opinion, I think that they're using obviously the old pay-per-view. They're using the pay-per-view model, And I think that their cards are way too expensive. Not even close. Way too expensive. I understand that they've got revenue to hit. It's just not a good business strategy right now. They're not big enough to demand these pay-per-view amounts, and I just don't see what they're going to do.
Yeah, and especially not on a Saturday night when the UFC has already been on, where there's college football. There's a lot going on that I can't imagine them pulling too many numbers. They're so aggressive on social media, though. If anyone's sharing any of their content, even with the streams and stuff,
they killed Jim Asoon's account yesterday. Jim Asoon is using a new
account.
So
they're trying to get every single last buy they possibly can. That's how desperate they are for each purchase.
They're such idiots. They don't even. So now no one's going to talk about it on social media. Obviously, they're going to be terrified. Right. So. Very, very foolish mistake from them. I would try.
But I could you imagine seeing like a Rumble Johnson get in there? That would be frightening.
Sure. I just think they're in big trouble. Let me ask you this: do you think that BKFC is going to be around in 5 years? That promotion.
Like this. Let's change the question. Do you think we'll see a BKFC 30?
Okay, I love that. I like that even more. Man, I'm gonna look. It's a tough one. I'm gonna say no.
Yeah, I'm going to say no as well.
They could. They could find a way to survive, but it just doesn't seem to be growing, that's for sure.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be changing much either.
Right.
Or evolving at all, at least production-wise, which when you're asking, I think, was it $30 this weekend? When you're asking for $30 or whatever, you're going to have to give us some production value.
Absolutely. And then I've got a question from Casual MMA Podcast. Thanks, guys. We have not checked you out yet, but I certainly will. Really appreciate it. And they use the hashtag #AskSplitPod. So
I just followed them back, by the way, too. So we'll check you out.
Let me do that as well. All right. Followed back, Casual MMA Podcast. So anyway, they say, does Jan beating these middleweights show that he could take John, or does he need to beat some established light heavyweights? In my opinion, he needs more. Hasn't been one since Krylov. Now, this is a very ironic and interesting question.
Yeah, it is, because he needs to beat another middleweight in order to get a title shot. But I don't think that him beating the former middleweights, necessarily means anything versus John.
Well, this is what's so funny. No, that's not even why I thought it was interesting. I find it interesting because John's last two fights have been decision victories over these middleweights. And he barely beat Santos in a split decision, another middleweight. So I understand, Casual MMA Podcast. I get the meaning of your question. You're saying he hasn't fought tough enough guys, but John's barely beating these middleweights. Just by the skin of his teeth. They're all he can handle. So
Fair enough. But I think you always overstate the...
Am I wrong? What did I say that's factually inaccurate?
Well, that he struggled with Anthony Smith when I think he beat him 50-44.
We can't talk about that fight again. You know for a fact Anthony Smith could have easily won the belt with one decision.
Was the score 50-44, yes or no?
No, I don't think it was, because he got that 2 points.
Was it 50-45 for sure?
I think it might have been. All right, whatever. It was 50-4. He lost 2 points, bro, for that illegal kick to the downed opponent.
Well, either way.
So no, it was not 50-45.
Maybe I'm mistaken, but he dominated that Anthony Smith fight.
He did. That's true.
So don't say the skin of his teeth. And
Santos was skin of his teeth.
Santos, he played it safe down the stretch of that fight for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know that Santos ever really put John in any grave danger.
Okay, fair. that's fair as well, but still almost lost. Still almost won the fight against John. So anyways, I just don't know if that whole ex-middleweight thing is really a big standard bearer. But again, thank you for the question, guys. We'll be sure to check out the show. Do we have...
For sure.
Yeah, do we have any more? I've got a Kairos one.
I got one more before we get to that from Proper Vegetables. He says...
Oh, yeah, I love that guy. What up?
How would a Kevin Lee versus Makhachev fight play out? Makhachev has been asking for this fight for a while, and Kevin has shown some interest in it after fight with Gillespie, so it's definitely possible. #SplitPod.
You go first.
I would take Islam Makhachev in that fight, honestly, by decision.
Ooh. Yeah.
I think he would be able to engage Kevin Lee in grappling situations. I think that he would tie Kevin Lee up, win the positions, and then eventually have better cardio and win a split decision.
I'm gonna full on disagree. I think that Kevin Lee would get that win over Islam, unanimous decision. If
That
not,
would be a very interesting matchup, though. I would love to see it.
I was even gonna say if not getting the stoppage, I would not be shocked. Everyone was saying Gregor Gillespie was the guy to beat Khabib a few weeks ago. They were saying he's gonna beat Khabib.
Right. Flavor of the week, like I always say.
Yep. Okay. So, are we now ready for Kairos's question?
Yep. Let's have it.
Okay. And I have not listened to it yet. I lied to you, Kairos, when I said great question. Sorry, man. Sometimes I do that beforehand when I haven't listened, but I can't wait to play it now.
Oh, yes. If it isn't the greatest dynamic duo in MMA podcast history, what's going on, Phil? What's going on, Fight Geek? Here's my question for you two. In the world of mixed martial arts, the landscape is rapidly changing. It's no longer solely about how great of a fighter you are, to how entertaining, how electrifying, how great your personality is, amongst other intangibles. Who do you think are 3 legitimate prospects who could be superstars in the future? This could be any division whatsoever. I'm interested to see your 3. I don't know my 3 off the top of my head, but thank you guys. Keep up the great work. You know I'm always listening. What's up?
Wow, the best dynamic duo in, what did he say, in MMA podcast?
The greatest in history.
It's true. He tells no lies.
It's a lot to live up to, people.
So you guys made
Thank you, Kairos.
Kairos is the man. First of all, if you're not following Kairos, do it right now. One of the best personalities on MMA Twitter. He's got a great YouTube channel as well. Follow him. Second of all, have to agree with the compliment. Again, thank you so much. Now we're getting another extremely difficult question about up-and-comers that are marketable, and I'm saying Macy Barber before you do. So, what's up?
I'm just going to go one guy, one girl, Macy Barber and AJ McKee. I'm going to keep it simple. I think AJ McKee still has a lot of room to grow, undefeated, Bellator. I mean, if they put half as much energy into building AJ McKee as they did MVP, they should actually have an actual commodity on their hands. I think he's a well-rounded mixed martial artist who could potentially be at the top of the food chain in the pound-for-pound rankings. So those are the 2 that really jump out at me that kind of have, AJ McKee doesn't necessarily, talk on the mic and is super flashy, but I just think he's a guy who could eventually be 20-0 or a long reigning champion or something in Bellator, which I think would be big for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And now I hate to use go back and use another fighter, but look, Tracy Cortez is extremely marketable. We know, for fighting reasons, for not fighting reasons. If she does prove herself as a fighter, which is still to be determined, she absolutely has superstar potential.
Absolutely. And I mean, I hate to bring this one back up because he is somewhat well known already, but I think Paulo Costa has unlimited star potential. I think, obviously Israel Adesanya is starting to cash in on his star potential.
Well, he's already a superstar.
Obviously.
Yeah.
So I think, us getting potentially, a matchup between like a Costa and an Izzy could be a star-making performance for Costa, especially in Latin America. So yeah, I think there's some guys out there for sure.
Absolutely. Okay, so I think that covers it all from my end. Do we have any more questions from your end, or is that it?
I'm just scanning them real quick. I actually think that's it for this week. So
perfect. Well, with that, guys, we are going to be back next week. Same time, same place. Thank you again I know Sunday nights are a little different with the Monday release, but we're going to be back next week. And Fight Geek, take it away.
All right, guys, as usual, you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Google Play, Stitcher, and more. I'm at The Fight Geek MMA. He's at Phil the MMA Dude. We are at Split_podcast. It's 4 words, The Split Decision Podcast. Talk to you next week. Peace.
Peace.